Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the absolute most profoundly hopeful ideas in 20th century political thought. We're going to be looking really closely at Hannah Arendt's 1958 masterpiece, The Human Condition. It's one of those texts that totally flips how we view human potential, and honestly, I am so excited to explore this with you, because her big concept, it's just as revolutionary right now as it was the day it was published.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever caught yourself feeling like the future is, well, already written? I mean, between the algorithmic feeds predicting our literal next click, the endless data-driven forecasting, and these historical crises that just feel like they're playing on an endless loop, it's incredibly easy to feel trapped by predictability, right? We kind of end up feeling like we're just passengers on this predetermined ride. But what if our very nature as human beings is basically designed to break that loop?
So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. First, we'll look at the thinker and her times. Then we'll unpack her revolutionary concept of natality. From there, we'll figure out how we navigate the unpredictable nature of it, followed by why our modern society constantly seems to miss it. And finally, we'll connect it all to what this means for us living right now in the digital age. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, the thinker and the times. Let's look at Hannah Arendt.
Now, to really get her work, you gotta understand her life. Fun fact, Arendt actually rejected the title of philosopher. She preferred political theorist because she wanted to stay focused on the messy, interactive realm of real human affairs. And looking at this timeline, you can totally see why. She was born in Germany in 1906, studied under some major philosophers, but then had to flee Nazi Germany in 1933, eventually making her way to the US. She wrote her massive work, The Origins of Totalitarianism, in 1951, and then The Human Condition in 1958. I really want to emphasize this. If literally anyone in the 20th century had a solid, justified reason to be a complete pessimist about human nature, it was her. Yet somehow, forged in the dark shadow of totalitarianism, her work offers this profoundly hopeful insight.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. The concept of natality and our capacity to act. Now, what's really interesting about this is how her core idea, natality, fundamentally reframes how we think about freedom. It's her ultimate counter to deterministic despair. So natality is defined as the human capacity for beginning something new. It's the act of inserting yourself into the world with totally unprecedented actions and words. For Arendt, freedom isn't just about the absence of constraints, like simply not being tied down. Instead, freedom is a positive, active thing. It's the literal ability to initiate something that absolutely could not have been predicted from whatever happened before. To really grasp the weight of this, we kind of need to contrast it with classic philosophy. For centuries, philosophers from Plato to Heidegger were frankly obsessed with mortality. They saw death as this ultimate limit condition that gives biological life its shape and urgency. But Arendt, she flips the script entirely. She shifts the focus to natality. She argues that the capacity for new beginnings is actually what gives meaning to political life. To her, every single birth isn't just some biological milestone, it's a literal world event. Think about it. A completely new, totally unpredictable actor just stepped onto the stage, bringing something genuinely unprecedented into our shared world. How cool is that?
Moving on to Section 3, navigating the unpredictable and the boundlessness of action.
And this brilliantly illustrates a real mechanical problem we face. Because human action is unprecedented, it's also totally boundless and unpredictable. When you speak or act out in public, you're introducing something entirely new, and bam, you immediately lose control over how it's received or what chain reactions it'll set off. So, how do we survive that kind of chaos? Well, Arendt points to two specific mechanisms that basically save human affairs from collapsing under the weight of all that uncertainty. Step 1 is forgiveness. Because our actions trigger unforeseeable consequences, we desperately need forgiveness to release ourselves and others from the permanent stain of past mistakes. And step 2 is promise-making. Making and keeping promises lets us carve out these little limited islands of predictability for the future. So put them together, forgiveness for the past and promises for the future, and they allow the miracle of unpredictable action to keep going without, destroying society. Which brings us to Section 4, why we miss it and losing the public realm.
This brings up the great tragedy embedded in Arendt's theory. If new beginnings are this constant structural miracle, why do we constantly feel so boxed in by the status quo? Well, Arendt outlines a few major roadblocks. First, the social has completely displaced the political. We've organized human life so heavily around economic labor and just buying stuff, which hollows out the actual public realm where genuine action happens. Second, we strongly prefer predictability. Let's face it, new beginnings are super disruptive. Our institutions, our bureaucracies, even our personal habits, they all heavily resist the new because the predictable is just easier to manage. Third, we've lost the art of public action. Arendt loved the Greek polis as a true space of appearance, a real stage to speak and act. Modern life just doesn't offer many of those spaces anymore. And finally, we constantly confuse making with acting.
I really want to zoom in on that last point because it is absolutely vital to understanding our modern mindset. We falsely equate fabrication with action. Fabrication, or work, is about following a preconceived blueprint to control a specific outcome. You want a chair, you build it according to the plan. But action has no blueprint. It is genuinely creative, boundless, and wildly uncontrollable. We walk around falsely believing we can engineer or make the future through meticulous planning, and in doing so, we completely miss that the true nature of human action completely defies engineering. This brings us to the climax of our explainer today. Section 5, Natality and the Digital Age, and the Totalitarian Temptation. So, the crucial point is this. Arendt wrote these words back in 1958, but we can literally map her fears directly onto the screens we're staring at every single day. Just look at the systems running our world right now. We've got algorithmic prediction, behavioral nudging, data-driven governance. We're constantly treating the beautiful unpredictability of human action as if it's a bug that needs to be fixed with digital data. Arendt saw the totalitarian temptation as this dangerous desire to make human affairs as mathematically predictable as natural processes. Today, impartially speaking, that temptation has just been digitalized. When massive systems treat human beings as mere data points to be optimized, they are completely confusing predictability with actual freedom. But here is the profoundly reassuring truth that Arendt leaves us with. Despite all these massive, all-knowing algorithmic systems, humans just keep acting in unprecedented ways that completely shatter the mold. The miracle keeps happening. Every single time there's a genuine social movement, a totally unexpected act of courage, or honestly just a moment when someone refuses to conform and speaks up in a way no data model ever could have predicted, that right there, that is natality in action. I want to just pause for a second and let this quote really resonate. This is the absolute emotional core of her work. The miracle that saves the world is that new beginnings are constantly being made. It is the ultimate antidote to despair, isn't it? It means that no matter how heavy the past feels or how aggressively calculated the future seems to be, the capacity to start something entirely new is literally hardwired into our very existence. Which leaves us with a final provocative question to chew on. Are you embracing your natality, or are you just submitting to the algorithm? Are you actually making space in your own life for the unpredictable, the unprecedented, the genuinely new? Or are you just following the blueprint? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on Hannah Arendt's incredible vision of the human condition. I hope breaking it down like this helped illuminate these ideas for you. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.